photographer.
That's right.
Probably the names aren't that important, really, as we come down to it.
This is aunt, and this is a daughter of her sister, and this is probably Walter Jr. So it's basically the Barker family.
Dated May 15, 1891. This fellow here, 1895, September 2, Walter L. Barker Jr.
And that's probably the same little guy in the
same
carriage.
fellow grown up 5 years later. And did you say that his father significantly...
he was a builder, and he built several houses in Wenham Depot section.
Some of which today...
South Hamlin. Some of today, they look the same.
They can be identified by the facades. Do they not all look alike, or you would tell me?
Pretty much. You have one set of plans, you go to it.
Well, as we said way back at the beginning of our program, we are going to take our viewers on a trip beginning in Beverly, down on Park Street. It turns out that Mr. Conant, in his younger days, was a shoemaker by trade to earn his money, and he worked down at the Frank Woodbury shoe factory, which was located on the corner of Federal Street and Park Street. Harold. And while there, we can presume he was interested. These photographs again are dated 1890, so we're right on the beginning of his 21-year career here. He took this magnificent picture of the Woodbury Shoe Factory.
Isn't that nice?
And today you can still see the lay of the land. You can still see where Federal Street goes up that big steep hill as it crosses Rantoul Street here. And this shoe factory was burnt to the ground, I think, maybe in the 20s or 30s. There was a big fire, leveled it, I guess.
They were like most of wooden shoe factories, and they had oil on the floors, you know, and once they got going, forget it.
Absolutely. And this was dated September of 1890, probably.
He did a lot of his 8x10s early, 1890. I think probably the cost of plates got him back into 5x7 as a basic photography negative.
Well, as I say, working there, he was a foreman, I believe. The notes said that at the factory. And the pictures here we see of some girls who worked at the factory, and unfortunately, as far as I know, we have no names here to identify. This was September 17, 1890, and it's titled Stitching Room Girls at the Frank Woodbury Shoe Factory.
Yes.
And they're on their lunch break, I would assume, Harold.
And I also assume that the lighting conditions weren't the greatest, and the girls had to, you know, freeze while he had the camera.
You were saying sometimes it was up to 15 to 20 minutes?
On the daguerreotypes.
On the early ones.
Yeah, and of course the improvement of the emulsions being more sensitive, and the lenses that they put on cameras certainly cut the time down.
So in other words, we don't see the smiling faces in those early pictures.
No, they're probably they were bored,
whether it was
frozen.
The sign of the economic times, or whether they were didn't quite know what the camera was about. But very rarely, stop and think about it, when you look at these old pictures of 100 years and more, you don't see smiling faces, Harold.
No. Well, maybe there was nothing to smile about back then.
Okay. September 17, 1890. Again, the girls. And names are not here, so unfortunately we have no names, but we can assume they're Beverly girls, maybe.
Oh, I would say
local area people that have gone to work at the shoe factory. And of course the shoe business was one of the largest booming businesses of its kind here in this area, Beverly. And the surrounding areas. They had a tremendous business going. A lot of factories up and down Rantoul Street, Park Street, and so forth. Gentleman here is standing by a Thompson Houston electric motor drive at the Woodbury factory, and this is dated September 22, 1890.
Yeah, this shows a relatively large size motor which powered through a belt to a overhead shaft line, which in turn the separate machines took their drive from this overhead line. So he moved a little too.
Gentleman looked, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
You can see it was a little blur there,
Yeah.
but he looks rather, I don't know whether he's indignant or he just wanted to look official, Harold, but he's certainly not your basic smiling.
No, none of
person
them.
there. Some more girls here, probably the same ones. We're not going to go into who's who here, but
This looks like it was taken outside the building.
outside the building, right, the front door there,
Right.
1890, September 8.
Yeah.
And now he must have taken his camera upstairs, maybe the second or third
got it.
floor,
You got it.
and looked off toward Elliott Street.
Yeah, it's cutting room, and that must have been one of the higher floors.
Right, we're looking right down Park Street
Yeah,
toward Elliott.
and I think, it's hard to say now, but I remember this building being there, and you can also note, if you follow along here, you can see the Gloucester branch line where it crossed Elliott Street.
The railroad line.
right.
Yep. And that Park Street, as we know it today, of course, is nothing like we see it here.
No, it's
For sure.
changed considerably, like most places.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Quickly now, as we move along here for the last few minutes of the program, we have three pictures. He stopped up on Beckford Street, up off of Cabot
Correct.
Street, downtown Beverly, just beyond Gloucester Crossing. And speaking of places that have changed, Harold, we have three pictures here of Beckford Street as it looked in the 1890s. This is the first one is dated
Now,
1890.
this one, I think, was across from Beckford Street,
All right.
across the street.
Absolutely.
And I don't remember this one here, but these two buildings still stand. If you go down Beckford Street and look down, you can see this building on the right and this building on the
Is
left.
that right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm going to do that. But this is on Cabot Street, the first
Yes,
picture here,
yes.
looking across from
And
where
that's
Beckford
before
Street
the,
comes over.
Charles Street and all those streets
Yeah,
were.
yeah.
So it was probably a dairy farm.
Yep. And the pictures, of course, as we see the place today, everything is all hot topped and
You never recognize it unless you had in your mind that you did recognize the buildings. And once you see them, they kind of photograph in your mind.
Sure. It's amazing how rural this whole area was, Harold.
Oh, definitely.
And it stayed that way.
Right.
It stayed this way or that way until relatively a few years ago, 40, 50 years ago, is when Dick Sims and I were talking about how North Beverly changed right after the Route 128 went through there.
Yes.
And became what we see it today to be. We were going to take our viewers in this program up to North Beverly and around Wenham Lake, but unfortunately our hour is upon us here where we must call it a day for this first program. So I think, Harold, when we come back for next time, we will begin our Benjamin Conant series of pictures right up in North Beverly on Enon Street. And we'll take ourselves a little trip down Enon Street and around Wenham Lake and into Wenham, I should say, around Wenham Lake. And
Yes.
then we're off and running through Wenham and Hamilton.
Right.
But as I said at the beginning, this is our first program that's going out to our Beverly listeners as well as the Wenham and Hamilton people, and the rest of our series will be shown on the Channel 11, I believe. So, Mr. Harold Boothroyd, I want to thank you so much for coming on. We've been thinking about this now for a number of years, talking about it, and one thing or another has put it off, and now we're into it, and I'm really excited, Harold. This is a great time for me because I've used a lot of these pictures, of course, in prior programs, with your permission, of course, and I'm really looking forward to our next programs.
Well, I think also this is a good advertisement for the Wenham Historical Association.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people may not be aware of the fact that we have such a fantastic collection.
Absolutely.
And we're doing something with it, and that's what counts.
Absolutely. We hope they all come during the celebration years that are coming up in the next year or two.
Correct.
We're having a big celebration.
Right.
The First Church of Wenham follows with their celebration.
The next year is the First Church. Yeah.
Right. So we're going to say goodbye for now, Harold, and we'll be back with our next program featuring more of Mr. Benjamin Conant's fine collection of pictures. This is Ed Joseph saying good night for now, and we hope you've enjoyed our program.